raw, real, authentic wisdom with Lourens from Retire Rich and Happy. Financially raw, real, authentic wisdom with Lourens from Retire Rich and Happy. Financially raw.
There we go. Welcome everyone. It is 10 o'clock, Thursday the 28th of July, and it is time again for Financially Raw. So I'm looking forward to spending some time with all of you. We're probably going to be busy for about an hour, and really look forward to chatting with you. And today's topic that we're going to talk about is some money saving hacks that you can do. This is from an article that was posted online where Budget Insurance did a survey to find out from people, South Africans, how they save money and how they go about in reducing their expenses. So I'll run through that with you, and then I will give you my thoughts on it. I'll add a little bit to it, and then I'll also share a few of my tips on how you can reduce your expenses. So if you want to, in these tough times, see a way to cut down a little bit, save some money, have more financial security, you want to listen to this show. As per usual, we have some music playing. For those of you who listen to Berg Studio, we will have some music, and today I'm going to play a little bit of rock music. So we'll go from Disturbed to Def Leppard to Bon Jovi. So there will be a whole range of rock music. So I hope you enjoy that. For those of you who are watching on our live streams, unfortunately we cannot play you the music. So in the breaks, I will be sharing a video of a previous show where we talk about a few of the budgeting mistakes people tend to make. So during the breaks, that video will play, so you can get some tips there as well on how people, or what mistakes people make when it comes to their budget. So I'm looking forward to sharing this hour with you. If you want to engage with me, you are welcome. You can send me a message on Facebook. You can also follow us on YouTube. You can send us some messages. Online, if you're listening on Berg Studio, there's a shout out button at the top. You can press that button, send me a message, and I will get it live in studio. And also, if you want to WhatsApp me, you are welcome to send me a WhatsApp. My number is 082-801-6693. You can WhatsApp me directly on that number, and I will respond live on air. So let's get going and start with our first music break for the morning. And let's listen to some Def Leppard to start off with, and it is Pour Some Sugar on Me. Okay, guys, those of you listening or following me on the live stream, while they're listening to the music, I'm going to start with a little break and show you some budgeting mistakes people make. So let's start with some of the mistakes people make.
Okay, so on our SEP tool, page 1, which is income budget, and I think this is one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make, is we have two tabs, which is called our lifestyle income and our freedom income. And lifestyle income is obviously what you spend your money on every day, pertaining to your lifestyle.
To fund your lifestyle,
to
basically.
fund you yourself living for that month, okay? Freedom income is money that you have taken and invested into something. Maybe purchased another a home, or you even put it into a business that creates an income for you. But the mistake we make is that money that we are creating extra, we plow it back into our lifestyle. And that we shouldn't be doing. We should be taking that money and we should be putting it into another account, either a reserve account for a rainy day, a secure fund, an emergency fund, Or if your emergency fund is at the level where it should be, that should be going into building a capital, which we say should then be put into another income generating asset. That we'll discuss on another day, the income generating asset part of it. But those two items, those two differences are extremely important to a person's future.
Yeah.
So a person will say, gee whiz, but I've got this extra house. It's creating so much more income for me on a monthly basis. But where's that money going? And the reason why it's not going anywhere is because you haven't taken control. The SEP tool, the tracking tool, will then explain to you exactly where that money is going and why it's not going to your to build your financial future.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you have to consciously define each income stream coming into your account. And you have to consciously say, is this lifestyle income or is this freedom income? And that's what people don't do. They just get everything into their account and then they just spend whatever they need to spend and thinking that there will be money left at the end of the month. So you have to say lifestyle income goes into my account, it funds my lifestyle. Freedom income goes either reserve account or we call it the free bucks account to start working for me instead of me working for money. We've all heard that cliche. You have to have money work for you. You don't need to work for money. But nobody knows how to do it practically. And this is what we teach. How do you get to the point where your money starts working for you? But if you don't have that, if you don't consciously define it as freedom income, it's not going to start working for you. You're not going to build momentum. And that is a big mistake that people make. You always, money is called currency for a reason. It comes from the word current, which means it has to flow. The money has to flow to where it can optimally work for you. If you just stick it into your check account, remember it's a current account. What does current again mean? It has to flow. Your current account, your check account, is not a place to park your money. And that's a huge mistake. Is people think that I've got 50,000 Rand in my check account, that's security. That's not what the check account is about. We teach people at the end of the month, your current account, your check account, your lifestyle account is empty. There's no money sitting in that account. That's not the purpose of that money. Now what Warren says here, he says, I remember when I first started with you guys, just implementing the SEP took me from 3,000 Rand deficit to a 2,000 Rand positive every month. That's a 15,000 Rand, a 5,000 Rand, yes. A 5,000 Rand turnaround in one sitting.
Yeah. Well, let me just add to the lifestyle freedom income. And maybe someone out there is listening and they might not have an extra house which creates an extra income. They might just be working overtime. And the biggest mistake that a person works when it comes to overtime is that money also goes into their lifestyle. If you are working extra and over above what you're normally
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. And that was Pour Some Sugar on Me from Def Leppard. For those of you who are listening on Berg Studio, again, you can give us a shout out. Just press the shout out button on the Berg Studio page, and you can chat to me directly in the studio. You can ask any questions, and if you have any comments or any suggestions from your side on ways that people can save some money, you are welcome to share, and I will share with the rest of the audience as well. So let's get started and have a look at the article that was posted online, and I'll start going through that article with you. It says 10 money saving hacks for South Africans by South Africans. It was written by Divana Rajgopal, and she's at IOL. It says, despite the rising cost of living, many South Africans are starting to save thanks to some savvy savings hacks. Now, there's always some good ideas and things that you can do to save some money. So Budget Insurance did a survey, and 47% of respondents said that they were saving their money for a rainy day. So guys, it says there, Susan Stewart from Budget Insurance said, the pandemic taught us that rainy days are possible and that they are hard and taxing on our monthly budgets. South Africans know this and are putting aside whatever funds they can to cushion unexpected blows. Respondents from the survey shared their hacks to help other South Africans save money, and we'll go through those hacks now. The main thing I want you guys to see here is that they talk about that rainy day fund, that's emergency fund. And that's part of the coaching. Part of what we teach people is firstly to take control of your cash flow. Secondly, to move your zero back to zero. And then you start building what we call your reserve account. Now, your reserve account is made up of two basic figures. The first one is your emergency fund, and the second one is your CapEx, your capital expenditure fund for the remainder of the year. So, or over a 12-month period. So that reserve account is your next level. Now, a lot of people, they don't want to build that reserve account. They say, no, but I want to invest. I want to make all this money. The thing is, your reserve account is the buffer between what we call your freedom and your lifestyle. So that is critically important. And we saw through the pandemic, we saw through the whole COVID lockdowns and everything, how important it is to have an emergency fund available when things go south. So the first tip they've got here is they say you have to carpool to ease the burden of the petrol hike. Now, guys, I looked at it, and it's actually scary how much petrol has moved up over the last year. It's like something like 80% increase over the last or in this year. So it's definitely made a big issue. You could feel it as the prices go up and up and up. Now, to ease the burden of the petrol price hike, 36% of respondents are carpooling to and from work. So this is something, if you are using your vehicle mostly just to drive to work and drive home, then it's better to see if you can't carpool with other people, so that it's not just you paying for your fuel, it is a group of you paying for your fuel. You can even go as far as saying, listen, let's say we are 4 guys living in the same area and driving to the same area for work. You then say, well, week 1 I drive, week 2 the second person, week 3 the third, and the fourth person. So everybody has 1 week where they are the driver of the week. So you don't necessarily have to give each other money. You just go with that person, and everybody covers 1 week. So if you look at that, if you have 4 people, each one driving for a week, you're basically saving or only spending 25% of the money that you would have spent, not only on fuel, but on your car wear and tear and those kind of things as well. We've got Fricky, he says, thanks again for the nice show and information. Thanks, Fricky. Always good to hear from the people that listen. So, however, people need to contact the insurance provider to check the terms and conditions of their contract. So guys, it's important to just find out, have a look at your insurance and see what the terms and conditions are. Will they cover you if you have people in your car when you do carpooling? Usually insurance will cover lift club cars as long as the activity of giving lifts to people is not a source of income to the insured. So for example, an airport shuttle service, or you start your own little mini Uber and you start making a profit from driving people back and from work. So it's important to just have a check. It's always important to relook at your insurance, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But yeah, just make sure that you don't get into for a nasty surprise. You get into a bumper bashing. You've got 3 other people in the car that you do carpooling, and your insurance, for some reason, excluded carpooling. So, yeah, important to just have a look, speak to your broker, and make sure that there is no issues when it comes to that. Second one, they talk about stockpiling. Say, take advantage of discounts and specials. Buying in bulk at a lower price will allow you to stretch your rand as well as shrink your monthly shopping budget. Buying fresh produce just before closing time, as they are cheaper, is another way to save money. So yes, it is good to buy in bulk. What I always just tell people or ask people to be wary of is that when they do buy in bulk, that they don't start using in bulk as well. If we buy a whole batch of let's say what's the dishwashing liquid, for example, you can very quickly start overusing it and then running out even before you would have normally. So it's important to not buy things in bulk that you will be tempted to use more of. Also, things like snacks. If you go and you buy snacks in bulk for the kids, when there is so much of it, you tend to give them more and they tend to use more. So be careful. When you do buy in bulk, whatever you're not going to use that month, pack it somewhere where it's not in your eyesight the whole time so that you can use more of it. Another thing is, especially meat, you can buy meat in bulk, which is a lot cheaper, and then just get yourself a proper fridge, because that's something that you can keep for quite a long time. So yes, stockpiling is important. It is something that you can save some money on, but yeah, be careful that you then don't start overusing it as well. Okay, guys, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So yes, the third one, a budget and stick to it. So this is something that we at iRetire are very, very strict on, or very, very important for us to teach people to do this. Everything starts with your budget, and I have spent hours and hours and hours teaching people how to budget, talking about it, doing shows, because it's such an important thing. So their suggestion is, in your budget, list your fixed expenditures, monthly deductions, and income. If your expenses are more than your income, you need to look for ways to cut down. So guys, yeah, that's actually so logical, but it is so true. There's only two ways in which you can improve your financial situation. The first one is increase revenue. The second one is reduce expenses. But what we all want to do is we want to start focusing on increasing our revenue without looking at why our expenses are too high. So you need to look at your expenses and start cutting down on those expenses as far as possible. But you can't do that if you don't budget properly. Now, what we do is they talk here, list your fixed expenditures, monthly deductions, and income. Budgeting is much more than just listing fixed expenditures. That's why a lot of people get into trouble. You need to budget. We call it fixed cost and variable cost. You need to have a variable cost budget as well. You need to know exactly how much money you spend on takeaways and fuel and groceries and entertainment. You need to understand these things to budget properly. So budgeting is 80% looking backwards and only 20% looking forward. So every month, before you even start planning your budget for the next month, you first sit down and you go through your bank accounts, your expenses for the previous month, to see what happened to your money. And then only do you start focusing on the next month. A survey respondent said that she uses the 50-30-20 principle in her budget and divides her income in three categories: needs, wants, and savings. So yes, again, it's not wrong advice, but it always sounds simpler than it actually is in practice. So what we do is we focus on two types of expenses: lifestyle and living expenses, and we need to understand which is lifestyle and which is living. So let me quickly explain what lifestyle and living expenses are. Lifestyle expenses, or let's first look at living expenses. Living expenses are those expenses that you need to pay to survive. So you need a place to stay. Therefore, your rent or your bond repayment will be a living expense. You need to have water, electricity. So that would be a living expense. But lifestyle expenses are the expenses you incur to make your life more comfortable. And that's usually where we overspend. We overspend on our lifestyle expenses side. So that's where you can make the most savings. Guys, if you look at budgeting, we've done some research, and the average middle to upper middle class family in South Africa overspends by at least 10%. So if you just sit down and really go through your expenditure, let's say your budget is 30,000 Rand a month. There is 3,000 Rand in that budget of yours that you cannot account for. And what you want to do is you want to go find that 3,000 Rand, because once you've found it, you've plugged those holes, you can then use that money to move you forward. So budgeting is so crucial. You need to learn to budget properly. If you don't know how to budget properly, get yourself a coach. Go to retirehappy.co.za, watch the coaching presentation, or get in contact with us, info@retirehappy.co.za. We can put you in contact with one of our coaches. They can help you, give you the tools we use to help people take complete control of their finances. Okay, so I've got a question here from Maria. She says, what is your strategy on budgeting, and how effective is it? Okay, so the first thing is, Maria, thanks for the question. There's two things. The strategy, first and foremost, is to make sure that you understand where your money's gone in the past before you start planning where your money needs to go next. Because if you don't know where it's gone, you cannot know where to allocate the money moving forward. So awareness is key. You need to know where your money's gone. You need to know what is happening with your money. You cannot just put your hand in the sand like an ostrich and hope next month is going to be better than the previous month. Okay. The second thing is you need to divide your expenses between variable cost and fixed cost. Understand what your fixed cost is and make sure that your fixed costs are covered. Then you give yourself a variable cost budget, and you have to have one place where you can track that variable cost. And that's why we have a cash flow management system that we teach people called variable cost segregation, where we help people set up a fixed cost account, a variable cost account, and manage that so that they are 100% aware of what's happening with their money on a day-to-day basis. How effective is it? It is extremely effective. When we sit with students, the coaches turn around their monthly expenses dramatically. We have had turnarounds of 6,000, 8,000, sometimes 15,000 Rand that people are wasting, that we find, and we help them keep that money in their pocket and help that money work for them. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Let's take a quick break. We've got another question from Sandria, and then I'll comment on that when we come back. Let's just quickly do some music. If you're listening on Berg Studio, we will do a little bit of music for you, and we're going to listen to Disturbed and The Light. Okay, guys, those of you who are watching our live stream, I'm going to continue our break, the video about budgeting mistakes people make.
Salary does just to make it through a month, well, then you're going to be in trouble. So that extra income should be classified as freedom income. You shouldn't be living off that income, because the day that stops, you're in trouble. So take that extra income and put it into your reserve, or for that rainy day. It needs to be separate to your normal salary that you earn. And I guess that person, most probably whoever's listening now, saying, oh, easier said than done. Yes, it is, but you're the one that created that. You're the one that put yourself into that position. So you need to make sure and separate your lifestyle income to your freedom income. If it's not part of your every month salary, if your salary gets deducted, or something happens that you don't have that overtime, then you're going to be in huge trouble.
Exactly. Now, and that's the thing is, what we teach people is that it has to move somewhere else very quickly. It can't sit in your account the whole time. Now, freedom income can be one of three things, just to put that in perspective. It's either income that you've released because you've taken better control of your expenses, you're getting extra money from work because of overtime, or you've paid off debt and that has created cash flow. That's all freedom income.
Yeah.
Secondly, it can be income from a business asset. Now, that's a complete different discussion. What constitutes a business asset, but income from doing something extra for an income. And then the third one is income from a fixed asset, something like a property or some other asset that is generating income because of the asset, not what you do in the asset. And that all gets defined as freedom income. So it shouldn't go into your check account, or if you don't have any other choice, like overtime gets paid with your salary, you have to move it out of your lifestyle account as quickly as possible to get it out.
But we say it's freedom income, but it's only freedom income if it doesn't go into your lifestyle.
Exactly.
That's the only time. You're doing all these extra things, but it can only be classified as freedom income if you don't use it on a monthly basis.
And that's why on the SEP we actually have it as two separate columns. You'll have a graph as well that shows you how far your freedom income is from your lifestyle income, because that is where freedom sits.
Yeah.
Once your freedom income is equal or more than your lifestyle income, you are free. You are financially retired. You don't have to go out and work for an income. You do it because you want to do it, not because you have to do it anymore. Okay, so you had what is the biggest turnaround you've had? I know you've had this the client with this massive turnaround.
I think that was around about 12,000 rand, and and that was in one sitting. And the only way we did that was it was a lady. I won't mention any names, but it was just where her money was going. And she just wasn't putting it in areas where her money could work for her.
Yes.
So in one sitting, she landed up going from I think it was a 6,000 or 7,000 rand deficit to around about a 6,000 or 7,000 rand positive. And then there was actually more to come 2 or 3 months down the line, because we took that positive cash flow, put it into her unsecured debt. We got rid of her unsecured debt within 3 months, and she was sitting with a huge positive cash flow. And from there on, it just started. It was just a positive change in her. I mean, she couldn't see the wood for the trees on day one. After month 2 and month 3, she was as happy as a canary. You know, she was. It was just unbelievable, just taking control and seeing exactly where your money's going.
Yes. Okay, what other mistake? Let's address another one, and then we go for another music break.
Okay, another.
Welcome back, everyone, and that was Disturbed and The Light. For those of you who are watching on our live stream, unfortunately, I can't share the music with you, but you can also, I always say what the song is, so you can go listen to it on your own if you want to. Then you can sort of join us listening to some music as well. I hope you got some benefit from our video that we shared, where we talk about money mistakes or budgeting mistakes people make. It was a session that we recorded, a show that we recorded earlier somewhere, I think it was last year, and it was with our top coach in iRetire, Warren Turner, who shares his wisdom and his experience with us. So if you want to watch that video in its entirety, you can go to our YouTube channel. You just go search for iRetire on our YouTube channel, and all these videos will be there. You can go watch those videos again. Okay, so I had a comment from Sandria. Let's just go through that comment quickly. It says, "Hi Lourens, just like to thank RRH. I've made use of the budgeting tool and the debt settling tool, and it helped me get a better grip on my spending habits and settle 95% of my debt. I have a much better understanding of my finances." Well, Sandria, thanks so much. It's always good to get that positive feedback from people. I'm so glad it could have helped you. And it's about building those new habits, and people are scared to change. They just do the same thing and they expect a different result. So what the coaching does is it helps you set those new habits, create those positive habits, and make sure that you continue with them and have a plan. Because if you look at the emergency fund, and just to go a little bit back to what we spoke about earlier on the emergency fund, the problem is a lot of people put some money into savings, but they have no goal. They don't know when is enough. So what we do is we have a specific goal. Once we coach people, we create what we call their minimum reserve level, and that is calculated to your specific circumstances. So you'll know exactly how much money you would need in savings. So it is it's an important part of it to understand where everything fits in. Okay, so let's continue. The next one, okay, we have another comment from Fricky. I've listened to the topic on the Facebook page. I love the success stories, and congrats to you and Warren. I think you have the secret and you are not afraid to share it. Thanks so much, Fricky. Yes. Yeah, we want to share with as many people as possible because we've experienced and we know what this can do for people if people just implement. And that is the big thing. You have to start implementing. Okay, so let's look at number 4, piggy bank. A piggy bank is a great way to collect all your loose, small change that will leave you with surprising results. If you don't have a piggy bank, many South Africans have been using 5-liter plastic bottles as the place to store the money that they are saving. Yeah, you'd be surprised during a year if you take your 2 rands and 5 rands and throw it in a bottle or throw it in a piggy bank. I've got like a glass bottle in my bedroom, and I just pop the change in there, and you'd be amazed how much money you start building up in there. One of the banks, FNB I think it is, also has a bank your change function. So what they do is, let's say you're spending 97 Rand and that transaction goes through your bank, they'll round it to 100 and put that money into a piggy bank for you in one of your accounts, or an account that they create for you, which is not a bad idea because you don't really see that 1 or 2 Rand, you don't really feel it, but it builds up quite a nice little nest egg by December that you can use for the extra expenses through the holiday season. Number 5, this is such an important one. Cook instead of buy. One respondent said that her money-saving hack was cooking at home rather than buying takeout. I always bring in a home-cooked lunch to work instead of buying takeaways. My weekly meal plan costs under 300 Rand. Guys, it just takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of discipline, and you can take your lunch to work every day instead of ordering that Mr. Delivery, ordering or going out for takeaways. You would be surprised at how much money you are losing because of that. And secondly, it is healthier to just bring your food to work instead of ordering takeaways. Also, be careful when ordering takeaways. It's not just the fee that they charge you for delivery. They charge you more for the order as well. So let's say, for example, you order a Big Mac meal from McDonald's. It's not just that you're paying extra for that meal. So first and foremost, takeaways are very expensive. Secondly, you then pay for a delivery fee to have the company come and deliver it for you. But thirdly, they then still inflate the price. So let's say, for example, and I don't know what a Big Mac meal costs because I don't eat it, but let's say it is the normal price for a Big Mac meal, a medium meal is 90 Rand. Then you would pay, say, 15 Rand for that meal to be delivered. That's 105 Rand. Then they charge you more than the 90 Rand you'll pay in the restaurant. They will, for example, charge you 105 Rand for it. So that's another 15 Rand. So you end up spending 130. Then you still want to tip the driver. That's another 10 Rand. That's 125, 130 Rand. That's something that costs you, supposed to cost you only 80 or 90 Rand, is now costing you 130 Rand. Guys, and you take that a few days a week, a few weeks a month, and you will see how much money you are losing with that. I checked on one of the delivery apps the other day. I love my sushi. So if you go and you order sushi through the delivery app, my favorite dish through the delivery app is 91 Rand. If you go into the store, that same thing, exactly the same thing, is 68 Rand. So that is almost 50% more that they charge you because you are delivering it. And then they charge you another 15 Rand delivery fee as well. guys, be very careful. I know we all became comfortable and spoiled with delivering food over the COVID lockdown when we couldn't just go around. But it's costing us 50-60% more for what we are ordering. So be very careful with that kind of thing. Okay, then number 6, prepare in advance. A respondent said, I use gas stove and open fire to cook and also pre-cook meals, then freeze them in batches. It helps me save a lot on electricity. Yes, if you can go and let's say, for example, you take most of your meals, you use your Sunday afternoon and you plan out your week with a menu, plan out your week, and make all your preparations and then freeze the food for the week. Firstly, it saves you a lot of time during the week instead of standing in front of the stove. Secondly, it will save you electricity. And thirdly, it will cost you less because now you will be prepared for the week. Another respondent said that she has her own vegetable garden and as a shopping hack, only buys winter clothes in spring and summer clothes in winter when they are on sale. See, that shows a little bit of foresight, because if we look at the way the retail business works, when it starts becoming spring, they want to get rid of all their winter clothes. So they start selling it out and you get it at much lower prices. The only thing is you will then have to prepare beforehand. So you buy in spring, you buy for next winter. At the end of spring, you buy for summer, and etc., etc. So it takes a little bit of planning, but you can save 20, 30, 40% on your clothing if you do it that way around. Number 7, needs and wants. Be honest about your debt obligations and your expenses. Is an important step in having clear and realistic picture of your current financial situation. Guys, I don't know exactly how that ties to needs and wants, but I want to make a comment on this. It says having a clear and realistic picture of your current financial situation. Guys, you need to stop bullshitting yourself. We go through life and we really bullshit ourselves in what our situation looks like because we don't want to face the monster. Now, how I explain it to people is if you watch a horror movie, most of the time when they don't reveal the monster, it is the scariest. It's only once that monster gets revealed, the fear goes away because it's the suspense. You see the monster in the shadows. It runs past the screen and that builds suspense. But once they reveal it, most often the scary nature of that monster disappears. So that's why in suspense and horror movies, they want to keep that suspense building as long as possible. And that's the same with your financial situation. We tend to not want to face the monster. So what we do is we hide it. We tell ourselves it's okay. We don't face it. We don't look at where our expenses are. We don't look at our debt situation. And then it seems much worse than it actually is. So really face your monster, look at it in the eye, and then you can overcome it. Okay, got a message from Lavuyo. He says, good morning, Lourens. Ever since I've been with RRH, I started understanding the true value of money. I really love the give every rand a job method because you see where all your money is going. Yes, Lavuyo, it's so important to know where your money is going. Like I said, it's 80% looking backwards and only 20% looking forward. Okay, so let's quickly go for another music break, and then when we come back, we will finish this list. And what we're going to listen to now is Rammstein, one of my favorite bands of all time, and the song is Mein Herz brennt. Okay, guys, those of you watching live, I'm going to continue with our video on the budgeting mistakes people make.
One would be on your expenses. I think a lot of people look at expenses and they don't understand what is really important compared to what is not until they put it down cent by cent. So normally on a budget perspective, without using the SEP, a person will just say, oh, well, I think I'm paying about so much for this, I think I'm paying so much for that. But at the end of the day, when they put it down cent for cent, and you see what the outcome is on your expense sheet when it comes to your fixed expenses compared to your variable expenses, that's when a shock is actually coming out.
Yes.
And they say, gee, am I really spending so much on this? Am I really why is my money going to this other part? Why am I spending so much on dinners, even on takeaways?
Yeah.
Sadly, there's quite a few smokers out there. Sorry to say this, you guys that smoke, but a person really gets a shock on how much money they spend on coffee and cigarettes.
Yes.
It's shocking. So yeah, that's something where they can say quite a bit.
Okay, what else is it that people have where they make mistakes, Warren?
Itemizing everything down. Draw that statement, and a lot of people also forget about bank costs. I mean, you don't realize how much bank costs come into play. When you start putting all this down, you can see, gee whiz, that takes off quite a bit of my income every single month. So maybe then start looking at what bank you're with. There's a lot of banks out there where their bank costs are a hell of a lot cheaper than what some are. So, just have a look. Open your eyes to even the tracker on your vehicle. I mean, sometimes that is a killer as well. A lot of people think that looking at something and you're only going to save maybe 50 or 60 rand now, or even up to 100 rand, and you think, well, it's only $100. But if there's 5 things that you can save 100 rand on, well, there's 500 rand.
Right.
And that 500 rand can go to getting rid of your unsecured debt. And that's the idea here, getting rid of your unsecured debt. Once that is done, then you're on the road to reaching your financial future or your financial freedom that much faster, because your unsecured debt, again, the interest rate on that is huge, much more than what your bank account's going to give you.
And that's exactly it. People, it goes 2 ways. When we accumulate these expenses, we go, oh, this is only 69 Rand a month. It's not too bad. That one's only 120. That one's only 50. And before we know it, that snowball effect happens, and it's 2,000-3,000 Rand a month going to all these small things. The converse is also true, where you say, if I go do all the effort to cancel this, it's only $60. But again, $60 here, $100 there, $200 there. Before you know it, you've saved 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 Rand a month. And I did a SEP and a debt settlement strategy yesterday for one of our new students. And they've got, if they take their debt as it is now, it will take them 42 months to pay off all the debt at current rates. 500 Rand a month. Only 500 Rand a month with our debt settlement strategy takes them from 42, 43 months to 20 months.
Jeez.
That's less than half the time. They're saving, with 500 Rand a month extra, they're saving almost 20,000 Rands worth of interest over the period of time. So never underestimate 500 Rand.
Yeah.
It makes a massive difference. Another thing you said, and I want to reiterate that, do not, when you plan, especially looking backwards, remember, budgeting looking forward, you have to make some assumptions. You have to say, well, I don't think I'm going to drive that much this month, so I'm going to allocate 3,000 Rand for my petrol. But looking backwards, you don't want to assume, you don't want to generalize or average it out. Looking backwards, you want to be as accurate as possible. Don't say groceries per 6,000 Rand. Coffee, probably 200 Rand. I promise you it is not that. So it's pointless trying to look back and doing a strategic expense planning if you don't look at the exact figures. Then you can just as well go on doing what you're doing at the moment. You have to go and embrace your true expenses. That's one of the things we teach at the forum as well. Embrace your true expenses. Because And welcome back, everyone. And that was Mein Herz Brent from Rammstein. So let's quickly run through the rest of these points, and then I will share with you some of my tips as well that you can start implementing. So number 8, if you can't buy it for cash, you can't afford it. It says, keep your credit card for emergencies and pay for goods and services. Now, I don't agree with that 100%. Yes, initially, the credit card will be there as security for emergencies. But once you get to a point where you've moved your zero back to zero, you then start building your reserve account for emergencies so that you become your own bank. But you pay for goods and services with cash or debit card only. So yes, you want to use your money. You don't use the bank's money to buy your stuff. So you have to move your zero back to zero. If you want to know what that means and how you do it, you can go to our YouTube channel, go watch the videos on that, and also contact us at info@retirehappy.co.za to get a coach to chat with you and show you how we help people move their zero back to zero. So this will ensure that you are living within your means and not getting into debt. Remember, people very seldom get into debt all at once. They get into debt at a slow pace, a little bit at a time, 2,000 or 3,000 Rand or 500 Rand, and slowly but surely they get themselves deeper and deeper into debt. And you don't just get out of debt by accident. You have to plan yourself out of debt. You can't just think that things will just magically improve if you don't plan and have a strategy. Number 9, debt. Start paying off your debt obligations. Pay the debts that cost the highest interest rates first. Speak to a qualified debt counselor if you don't know where to start. Okay, so firstly, pay off your debt obligations. Yes, we talk about your unsecured debt or your consumer debt. That's the credit cards, the personal loans, the overdrafts, the revolving credit, all of those debts. Those are the ones that kill your cash flow. You want to get rid of that debt first. Secondly, they say pay the debts that cost the highest interest rates first. Now, there's a snowball effect that you use that helps you go through and getting rid of your debt. But always the traditional wisdom is pay the highest interest rates first. But I believe it's not as clear cut as just that. Because the highest interest rate might be your personal loan of 100,000 Rand. So if you focus on paying that off first and you put all your extra money into paying that off first, it might take you 8, 9, 10 months before you pay that one off, even longer. And it's very difficult if you don't see some short-term success to keep your motivation. So what I say is it's a toss-up between the ones with the lowest balance and the ones with the highest interest. So you can get something with high interest, but not necessarily the highest interest, but that also has a low balance. So you can get rid of that debt, so you can taste some success, which keeps you motivated. So you want to balance it off. It's not as easy as just saying pay the ones with the highest interest rates first. Then they say speak to a qualified debt counselor if you don't know where to start. Guys, I wouldn't suggest just speaking to a debt counselor. Remember, these guys get paid to put people under debt counseling. Debt counseling is not the ideal situation. It is a last resort. It's not a first solution. So you only go onto debt counseling if there's no other solution for you to get out of your debt. Don't just jump into debt counseling. Speak to one of our coaches. They can help you improve your situation, improve your cash flow, get rid of your debt without having to resort to going into debt counseling. Number 10, bank wisely. Take a careful look at your bank fees and at the interest you earn on your savings. Check out what other banks offer and look at other ways to invest your money. Speaking a qualified, I assume they were trying to say speaking to a qualified financial advisor can help you get started. Okay, so let's look at the first part. Take careful look at your bank fees. Guys, really look at what you are paying for bank fees. Do you really need that platinum check account? Do you need that private wealth clients account where you're paying 600-700 Rand a month for it if you're not really using it? Yes, you might think it's a status thing, but if it's not necessary, don't pay for extra bank charges. Okay, then they talk about look at the interest earning on your savings. Yes, it is important to look at the interest, but that's not the most important thing. Initially, when you build your emergency fund and your reserve account, it is important to have accessible cash more than getting 1% more interest, because your emergency fund is there to have accessible cash in the event of an emergency or a capex expenditure. It's not necessary to build wealth. That's what you start doing once you get into building capital assets through investment. And again, if you want to find out more about that, you are welcome to contact us. Look at other ways to invest your money. Okay, so yes, you have to look at other ways. You can't just put your money in the bank. But the traditional investment, the traditional saving is also not going to get you to retirement. So you need to look at ways to build compound income, where income creates assets that creates more income. You want to get into that, and we call it a generational wealth spiral. So you need to build that generational wealth spiral of yours going forward. Okay, so that is the 10 points that they shared. You're welcome to give me your thoughts on it, or if you want to add anything to it. So let me quickly run through a few of my points. The first one is have awareness. I've said this, you need to become aware of your expenses. Before you can plan on how to increase or how to reduce your expenses, you first have to have the awareness to know where your money is actually going. Secondly, get rid of unnecessary subscriptions. Guys, with all the clients that I see, there's so many of them that's paying monthly subscriptions for things like Audible, or they've got things like a news channel that they're paying every month, or DSTV, or Netflix, gym memberships, all of these small amounts. And we think that 100 Rand won't make a big difference. But the moment you start accumulating that 100 Rand for this, 100 Rand for that, looking at things like these accidental death, credit life, those kind of things are just money. 100 Rand here, 80 Rand there, 200 Rand there, and before you know it, it's 2,000 Rand a month that is gone. So look at those subscriptions that you're paying, seeing if you're really using it. Things like these loyalty things like Vitality and Multiply, just go and see if you're benefiting from it. If you're not and you can, then start benefiting, use it. But if you're not, if you're paying 500 or 600 Rand a month to have this benefit, but the only thing you're using it for is going to gym once a week, then is it really worth it? Okay, the next one is look at your takeaways and coffees. We've spoken about preparing your meals, but specifically coffee. Guys, if you have a proper coffee machine, or you make your own coffee in the morning, you don't stop at the garage and buy that Vida Cafe coffee or Mug and Bean. It is ridiculous how expensive it is. I mean, we're paying 30 Rand for a cappuccino, even more. And you count that up once or twice a day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 5 weeks a month. It is massive what we are spending. Warren had a client, and he asked him how much he thinks he's spending on takeaway coffees, and he said probably like 200 or 300 Rand a month. And they looked at it. For the first time, he actually looked at his expenses over the last month, and it was over 1,600 Rand a month that he was spending on coffee alone, cappuccinos. Imagine what you can do with that money. So be sure to know that what you're spending on that. Okay. Look at your habitual expenses. Here I'm talking about those bad habits, the smoking, the drinking, those kind of things. Look at those. I'm not saying you have to stop smoking. I'm not saying you have to stop drinking. What I'm saying is just look at how much you're spending. Reduce your smoking. Give yourself a budget or a limit to how much you can smoke. Same with drinking. Reduce your alcohol consumption. Give yourself a limit for the month, instead of every weekend just going and buying more without really understanding how much money you're spending on it. Another one, revisit your risk cover often. So guys, we are all spending what I call what if money. It's money you pay a third party for in case something happens to you. Doesn't build up an asset, doesn't create anything unless one of those eventualities that you're covering are happening. So you need to revisit that. And risk cover is all about doing what you need, not improving on what you've got. So when you look at your risk cover, make sure you understand what it is that you need and have a risk management plan that builds specifically that. All of these small companies that phone you over the phone and they sell you a cancer cover, they sell you an accidental death, you have credit life cover. All of these things are just eating up your cash flow without really structuring or building towards a specific goal. So sit with one of our risk specialists, have a risk assessment done so that you can see that what you are paying for what if actually does what you need it to do, not what you think you need it to do. Also have a look at your medical aid. A lot of times people get sold the top of the range medical aid where you don't really need the top of the range medical aid. You can look at how a medical aid is structured, and I'll maybe do a video again about that structure of a medical aid and how it's built, and only pay for the things that you actually need. You probably don't need the threshold benefit, and you're paying for it every single month. So look at the way on how you can reduce your expenses on your medical aid as well. Oh, yeah, this is another one. And so be fashion conscious, but don't be brand conscious. You can look fashionable. You can wear clothes that looks good on you without having to pay 2, 3, 4 times the amount just because it's a specific brand. So understand what it is to look good and dress well, but don't become brand conscious where everything has to be one or the other brand. Guys, most of the time, especially when it comes to clothing, you have these factories in one of these countries like China or wherever, and on the one side of the factory they make this branded item and it costs you 500 Rand, and exactly the same factory, they make exactly the same material, make exactly the same garments, it's just not branded, and those garments cost 100 Rand. So guys, it's the same thing that's made in the same factories, especially with clothing. Don't be brand conscious, be fashion conscious. Okay, another one is take a walk or take a bicycle. With fuel prices where it is, how often or how close do we stay to our nearest little local shopping center or shops? I know I'm here at Valley View. The Valley View is like a kilometer away. So most of the time it's like less than a kilometer away from us. So instead of getting in your car and driving there, why don't you just walk or take a bicycle to get there? Because it's those small trips that eat up a lot of our fuel consumption, and just by it's healthier as well to take a walk, and it's getting out a little bit, etc., etc. So yeah, just think about, instead of driving somewhere, just take a walk. What does this say? Oh, I made a note here that says downscale your car. Now in today's, if you're, you basically use your car just to go back and forth from work and back, you might want to think of downscaling your car. You don't need that 3.2 liter turbo diesel bakkie to go to work and back if it's basically just driving to the office. Get a small little car. Maybe have one family car and then one small little runabout to help with your commute. Then don't upgrade your phone unless it's absolutely necessary. Here's the thing, and I'm as guilty as anybody else with phones, is we want to have the newest, best phone out there. So once our upgrade time comes, we jump. We haven't even gone through our contract yet, but it's time for an upgrade. Then we jump and we go get the best phone. But we get that phone that's better than the previous one, and we basically use exactly the same things. We use it for WhatsApp, we use it to make calls, we check the social media apps, and we play a few games, and that's it. It's the same thing, but we want the biggest, best new phone. So guys, don't upgrade your phone, get another contract, spend that money again on the phone if it's not absolutely necessary. And then lastly, look at your data expenses. Guys, look at what you're spending on mobile data, what you're spending on your fiber, what you're spending on all of these different places where we have data. We might have a phone with data on, you might have a little dongle with data on. Just have a look at those expenses and see how you can combine them and save cost on data. Okay, guys, those are a few of I don't have more time. We're already running past an hour. It was really good chatting to all of you. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I enjoyed sharing this with you. And for those of you who are watching on live stream, I'm going to say a bye. And for those of you who are listening to Berg Studio, I'm going to play out with one single song or one song from Bon Jovi called It's My Life. Cheers, everyone.
Financially raw, real, authentic wisdom with Lourens from Retire Rich and Happy. Financially raw, real, authentic wisdom with Lourens from Retire Rich and Happy. Financially raw, real, authentic wisdom with Lourens from Retire